Well, welcome back. And of course, SONA 2026 and the build-up in full swing here at the Cape Town City Hall, which is, of course, a temporary parliamentary precinct. And I'm joined now by Minister Dean McPherson to talk to us about the infrastructure and, of course, what's happening in the country in that regard. Minister McPherson, thanks so much for your time. We are told that, when we look at infrastructure, this is where some of the jobs that the country craves will be created. So as infrastructure-led job creation, how does that picture square up from last year, and what can we expect going forward?
Thanks, Sakina. Great to be with you. Let's look at what the data shows us. In Q3 last year, 250,000 new jobs were created in South Africa. 130,000 of those came just from the construction sector. So more than half of all new jobs come just from construction. Why is that? Because projects are getting off the ground. People feel confident that the state says what it's going to build, it will do, and so people are hiring. In the last 12 months, we saw for the first time a positive contribution to GDP by the construction sector after 3 quarters of decline. So we are headed in the right direction, and the direction of travel says to me that the stuff that we started off with at the beginning of the 7th administration 18 months later is now starting to pay off, and the more we do and the more effort we put in, the more results that we're going to see. So I think that we are moving in that direction. Of course, infrastructure is a difficult thing. We announced something today. We only see that completed in a couple of years' time. People want to see things now. I understand that. But I think that when we look in the next 2 or 3 years, South Africa is going to be a very different country than what it is today because of the plans that we started with 18 months ago.
So let's take stock of those plans with regard to infrastructure development. And we've been told this several times. And, the fact that this country was going to be be turned into a building zone, so to speak. So how far are we on that? How many projects have you completed in the last financial year? And going into 2026, what are the expectations?
Well, just in the last year, we have doubled our construction book from 120 billion rand to 248 billion rand. That means that there's R250 billion new projects that are ready to go. That's exciting. To do that in 12 months is unbelievable. Now what we've got to do is match that with financing. We've got to match that with contractors. We've got to match that with experts to deliver those projects. So our order book is full and ready to go. And it's those projects that turn this country into a construction site. I think that you see particularly in things like water, energy, transport, you see a lot of new construction. We're going to see new construction in the Durban Port Terminal. That's exciting. We see new airports being built, the Winelands Airport that's going to take place. On Friday, we're going to be announcing another new airport project that we're partnering with the new Northwest Provincial Government around Pilanesberg. We're doing work with AgriBiz and AgriSA to make sure that we can fix the roads of getting grain to market quicker and cheaper so people's food is cheaper. That's the kind of work that we're getting into, and I think that people are starting to benefit from and see around the country.
People talk about what matters to them, like the buzzword, the buzz phrase this morning, when you listen to ordinary South Africans, they're not receiving water. They're worried about their accommodations. They're worried about state-owned buildings. When you go to these buildings and they're not attractive, they're old, they're dilapidated, they're hazards, essentially. So people want to know, what are the plans in those regards?
So we are really looking to what the President says tonight, particularly around using state assets. We have this massive property portfolio that doesn't generate any income. It's falling apart. It's not contributing to the growth of this country. And we think that there's significant scope for investment, development and partnership in that. And we'll have to see what comes out of that. Of course, the water problems in this country are completely unacceptable for any person that doesn't have water. But I think we've also got to understand, where does that problem lie? It doesn't necessarily lie with national government, but it relies in local municipalities and water distributing agencies. So what we're seeing in Johannesburg, I think we saw the minister there trying to actually pull everyone together. But people obviously have legitimate concerns, and they are right to do so. Our government must continue to deliver and must continue to listen to what people's positions are.
Otherwise, we're infringing on people's human rights, and that is, of course, quite a blight on Parliament.
Of course, and Parliament must hold the executive accountable. The executive must be able to present plans, and then not just present them, but follow up and actually institutionalize those and deliver on those. And I think that certainly as public works and infrastructure, that's what we have focused on. There are two obsessions that we have, Sakina: growth and jobs. If that decision that we take does not meet those two metrics, we throw it out. And I think that we need to see more of that across the board.
And that's Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, Dean McPherson. And of course, we'll speak to him again later on. For sure, there'll be time to catch up. And you look a bit different in his suit and tie, but we'll catch up with him. I'll tell you what, Vanessa Puna's out on the streets. Let's find out what people have to say. Good morning, Vanessa, once more.